All right, she lost an election, and now she's projecting. Hillary Clinton went on The View this week, which immediately raises a serious question. What's the weight capacity for that stage? But you'll never guess what she talked about. Her love of gardening, the things she does to stay healthy, how much she adores catching and cooking stray kittens. Nah, it was Donald Trump, as expected. But it's like I always tell Taylor Swift, girl, you gotta move on. Seriously, Trump doesn't just live in Hillary's brain. He's built a 500-unit condo with in-unit laundry and a rooftop lounge.
No political titan is ever truly safe, not even Hillary Clinton. With blazing sarcasm and fearless honesty, he slices straight through the glittering armor of political theater to reveal the real Hillary hiding beneath the surface. Every smirk, every well-rehearsed grin, every carefully polished one-liner gets stripped away until all that's left is the raw, unfiltered version of her power persona. From the notorious email fiascos to the unforgettable foreign policy blunders, nothing slips past his comedic scalpel. He dissects her legacy with a mischievous grin and a perfectly timed punchline that lands like a firecracker. This isn't mild commentary, it's a total comedic demolition. The audience doesn't just laugh, they explode into disbelief as the wreckage of her reputation smolders under the bright lights.
Registered voters said any Republican would be better than President Biden, prompting one woman to legally change her name to NE Republican. In Washington, D.C., the giant grocery chain has announced a ban on large bags. Great, now where will I shop? Complains one large bag.
If you're enjoying this takedown, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more of these fiery moments. Now just imagine it, rolling out of bed, stretching like royalty, sipping that overpriced Starbucks latte, and suddenly thinking, you know what the world really needs? More wisdom from Hillary Clinton. Because of course, nothing screams unity and healing like advice from someone who spent more time dodging scandals than a raccoon sprinting through a garbage-strewn alley under a flickering streetlight. The irony is almost poetic, if poetry came with a side of political déjà vu. It's the kind of thought that makes you laugh, groan, and reach for your coffee all at once because, deep down, you know the absurdity writes itself.
Hillary Clinton argues Joe should be, quote, direct and forceful, end quote, against Trump in the CNN debate. Yeah, direct and forceful, just like the noose I put around Epstein's neck. If I did it.
And right on cue, Greg Gutfeld unleashed the wrecking ball with the force of a late-night thunderstorm. This wasn't your average roast, it was a full-scale disaster flick unfolding live on stage. Think of it as a Category 5 hurricane of mockery packed with verbal lightning bolts, explosive laughter, and zero hesitation. The man turned political critique into performance art, blending chaos with charm in a way only he could. It was the comedic equivalent of a bulldozer plowing through a glass factory, loud, destructive, and impossible to look away from. But let's not jump too far ahead just yet. The spotlight was still locked on Hillary, gleaming under the heat of the stage lights, and Greg was more than ready to torch her reputation with laser precision and outrageous style that had the crowd gasping between fits of laughter.
Warning signals that you were gonna lose? Well, too bad you didn't bother to visit the states you ended up losing, you potato-shaped wine bag. But would he even be worse now?
I think that he'd be even worse now. Yeah. Because he was somewhat restrained, believe it or not, in the first term by people who he hired because he thought they would go along with him,
and right on cue, Greg Gutfeld unleashed the wrecking ball with the force of a late-night thunderstorm. This wasn't your average roast. It was a full-scale disaster flick unfolding live on stage. Think of it as a Category 5 hurricane of mockery, packed with verbal lightning bolts, explosive laughter, and zero hesitation. The man turned political critique into performance art. art, blending chaos with charm in a way only he could. It was the comedic equivalent of a bulldozer plowing through a glass factory. Loud, destructive, and impossible to look away from. But let's not jump too far ahead just yet. The spotlight was still locked on Hillary, gleaming under the heat of the stage lights. And Greg was more than ready to torch her reputation with laser precision and outrageous style that had the crowd gasping between fits of laughter.
And, you know, they're going to try to ignore him for as long as they can because they're deathly afraid of him. And they're going to do to him what they did to me in the Democratic primary of 2020, which is pretend you don't exist. And then if people start noticing you, then they will try to smear and cancel and destroy him at all costs.
I remember what Hillary did to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, and she's still standing.
Baseless smears that repeated over and over and over again by the propaganda media until people actually start to believe it. And it starts causing some real damage.
But let's rewind the clock a little and ask Hillary to revisit those infamous days. The era when hidden email servers lived in basements. Benghazi was just another name on a map, and delete wasn't just a button. It was practically a lifestyle choice. Because nothing screams transparency quite like wiping 30,000 emails faster than a teenager frantically clearing their chat history before their parents walk in. It was the digital disappearing act of the decade, one that would make even magicians jealous. Every deleted message added another layer to the mystery, another spark to the firestorm, and by the time the dust settled, it wasn't just about the emails, it was about the audacity. Integrity wasn't missing, it had been permanently archived under classified, and Greg made sure the audience never forgot it.
Asking Hillary what will happen if Trump is reelected, which is odd because Hillary's an expert on not getting elected. I wonder, does she think it would end our country as we know it?
I think it would be the end of our country as we know it. And I don't say that lightly. You know, I hated losing, and I especially hated losing to him because I had seen so many warning signals during the campaign.
Greg didn't waste a single second. His eyes lit up with pure mischief, like a political version of dropping Mentos into a bottle of Diet Coke and waiting for the chaos to erupt. Only this time, the explosion wasn't carbonated. It was Hillary's carefully crafted legacy bursting in front of a live audience. Each sarcastic jab landed like a truth bomb wrapped in humor, exploding with precision and timing that only Gutfeld could deliver. With effortless rhythm, he shredded decades of Clinton brand PR spin as casually as tearing open a bag of chips. Flavor of the day, sour cream, scandal, and pure delusion. The crowd couldn't get enough. Laughter rolled through the room like thunder as Greg peeled away layer after layer of political polish until only the raw irony remained gleaming under the spotlight.
This is why lefties always get all the commencement addresses, and they love to spout their opinions on award shows because they know there's no journalist there that will ask them a question. And the reason why, and he's the perfect example, none of their opinions are actually real. They are all assigned.
And then came the 2016 election, the plot twist that shook an entire nation like a political earthquake on live television. Hillary was supposed to win. The coronation was set, the script already written, and the ending practically gift wrapped by every late night pundit in town. Hollywood elites were ready. Old school politicians had their congratulatory tweets lined up, and the champagne was chilling in the back rooms. But then, boom, the American people threw the curveball of the century and said, actually, no! The shockwave was seismic. And how did Hillary respond? By embarking on the world's longest post-election tour filled with book deals, blame games, and excuses galore. From Russian bots to Macedonian bloggers, from sexism to Wi-Fi glitches, she pointed fingers in every direction except the mirror. Greg didn't just highlight the excuses, he shredded them one by one, mocking every weak defense, every recycled talking point, every awkward press tour meltdown. Watching him dismantle her spin was like seeing a kid with unlimited tokens at Chuck E. Cheese. Pure chaos, non-stop hits, and absolutely zero mercy.
In the Democratic Party's pocket since Hillary stopped having sex.
That's like decades.
Yeah. Losing the union endorsement is like P. Diddy running out of baby oil. There's a whole lot of friction ahead. When Teamsters polled their members about the Dems' new candidate, cackles McKnee pads.
And then there was the Clinton Foundation, that glittering monument to what exactly? Charity, transparency, or just a family empire disguised as generosity? Millions poured in, yet somehow the world didn't seem any better for it. Coincidence? Not a chance. Greg dove into the topic like a kid unwrapping a gift labeled hypocrisy, his grin widening with every revelation. He reminded the audience that Hillary's high-priced Wall Street speeches sounded less like bold leadership and more like a bored telemarketer reading off a diamond-encrusted cue card. 6 figures just to put bankers to sleep. It was politics as a bedtime story for billionaires. Every punchline peeled back another layer of the Clinton facade until the polished image crumbled into a pile of irony. By the end, the crowd wasn't just laughing, they were crying tears of disbelief as Greg turned one of politics' most untouchable figures into a walking punchline of her own making.
The alleged creator of the plan was Julianne Smith, a Clinton policy advisor that the unclassified Durham report refers to as Foreign Policy Advisor 1. And this woman, look how happy she is. She's like, I got away with everything. I nailed it. And then Obama made me the liaison to NATO. I mean, not Obama, Biden. Like I continue to get employed by these people because all I do is sit around and do the illicit bidding of my Democrat power boss.
And then came her grand reinvention, the sudden makeover into a so-called defender of truth. Now that's comedy gold. This from the same woman who once claimed she was dead broke while owning more homes than a Monopoly board. Hillary's relationship with truth is like a vegan at a steakhouse. Awkward, unconvincing, and full of contradictions. Yet there she was, parading around as if she were the moral compass of democracy itself. It's like watching the referee of a demolition derby brag about fair play. You can't help but laugh at the irony. Greg's takedown was sharp, relentless, and hilariously educational, like a roast on the History Channel. He reminded everyone that Hillary has headlined more scandals than most soap operas, only with acting somehow worse. Every attempt to appear relatable felt staged, rehearsed, and dripping with PR gloss. Having a beer at a dive bar, staged. Riding the subway, staged. Breathing oxygen, still under review.
This one is wild. This is Hillary Clinton in like 2008, and Hillary Clinton saying some wild MAGA type shit.
Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked, they're gone. If they...
She's a Republican.
If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes. And you have to try to learn English. And you have to wait in line.
You have to wait in line. You have to wait in line. It's
You couldn't believe that.
illusion.
But then came the knockout blow, the pièce de résistance. The moment Greg Gutfeld torched Hillary's uncanny ability to destroy everything she touches. Endorse a candidate. They lose. Push a policy. It collapses before the ink dries. It's like she's cursed by the ancient gods of irony themselves. If Hillary ever endorsed gravity, the laws of physics would probably take a vacation. And inside Clinton HQ, the same tired playbook gets dusted off every time. Deny, deflect, and dodge accountability. It's like watching a magician whose only trick is making emails, integrity, and credibility disappear right before your eyes. Is it unfair to blame her for everything? Maybe. Is it hilarious to watch? Absolutely. Because seeing someone who's been in politics since the dial-up era still pretending to be the face of change is like watching a VHS tape trying to trend on TikTok. And let's not forget the media cheerleaders, clinging to her every word like a caffeinated pep squad, spinning failure into brilliance even when it crashes spectacularly again and again.
Clinton, of course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 2016.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
She, first of all, she came out before the sun had risen to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate.
Greg didn't even break a sweat. His delivery was so effortless. His sarcasm so razor sharp that every line sliced deeper than any direct attack ever could. And the most brutal part? Hillary wasn't even there to defend herself. She didn't need to be. The roast was cooked to perfection. The flames licking so high that even Gordon Ramsay would have called it beautifully done. Yet, just like a recurring villain in a sitcom that refuses to get canceled, she always finds her way back. Probably just in time to announce another memoir, maybe titled You Thought I Was Finished. Spoiler alert, she wasn't. The saga drags on, and as long as Hillary keeps stumbling into the spotlight with all the grace of a malfunctioning Roomba, voices like Gutfeld's will be there to hand her the mic, then gleefully set the whole stage on fire. The crowd eats it up every time, popcorn in hand, watching as political ambition collides with zero self-awareness in glorious slow motion. Because nothing says retired from politics quite like appearing in every news cycle, haunting screens like a political Furby that just won't turn off.
Doesn't mean that Hillary would have been a good choice either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office. They were trying to get people to be supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. Women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that have this blind allegiance towards this career politician, completely full of shit. She's been full of shit.
She strolls in, perfectly styled in a carefully chosen blazer, drops a few lines dripping with that trademark passive-aggressive wisdom, and flashes a smile like someone who just remembered every secret in Washington. Figuratively, of course. That's what makes it almost comical. It's pure performance art, the kind of act that belongs on Broadway, not in politics. The crowd nods along as if she just solved world hunger with a slogan, hanging on every polished phrase like, "We must protect democracy." But coming from her, it lands less like a rallying cry and more like a phishing email disguised as a TED Talk. It's all theater, carefully rehearsed to make it seem like democracy failed her, not the other way around. Meanwhile, Greg's roast didn't just poke holes. It ripped the entire facade off, tossed it into the river, and handed everyone binoculars to watch it sink. He pulled no punches, dragging every donor scandal, every pay-to-play whisper straight into the light. His grin never faded. It was the smile of a man who had memorized every hidden footnote. Each desperate attempt to rebrand her as the wise, seasoned stateswoman collapsed under the sheer weight of his sarcasm, leaving nothing behind but awkward laughter and the sting of recognition.
There she puts out this tweet, and it's a picture of her, a much younger Hillary, and the caption on the hat reads, "But her emails." And she writes in her tweet, "Bringing this back in light of recent news. Get a limited edition But Her Emails hat and support Onward Together groups working to strengthen our democracy." The nerve of this woman to have committed federal crimes and to have gotten off because James Comey didn't have the spine to bring it.
Greg reminded America that Hillary Clinton isn't the Jedi Master she pretends to be. She's more like a frustrated corporate HR rep trying to fix a Gmail crisis. And the audience devoured every second of it. Why? Because finally someone said out loud what most people only whisper at Thanksgiving dinners. The Clinton saga has morphed into a slideshow of contradictions. The champion of women, unless they accuse someone she likes. The defender of truth, unless it's under subpoena. The fighter for the people, but only if they're wealthy donors with premium Wi-Fi and a cocktail budget. And here's the delicious twist. After years of rebranding, dodging, and endless image makeovers, Hillary still missed the one thing that could have actually saved her: genuine humility. Greg's roast hit harder than anyone expected because it held up the one mirror she spent decades avoiding. When the smoke finally cleared and the last punchline landed, all that remained was the raw, unfiltered truth. Not the consultant-approved version, but the reality that maybe Hillary isn't the misunderstood savior of democracy she claims to be. Maybe she's just the loudest voice in the room who refuses to take the hint. Because when it comes to political drama, Hillary doesn't just serve the tea, she is the tea. Bitter, oversteeped, and absolutely impossible to ignore. And the best part, America's still sipping every last drop.